around 2:30 in the morning. We were dropped off silently and began walking in line, the three of us. And so it was moving through the woods, and I had a stick. I think we might have all had sticks, I don't know, to be sure we could pierce through because there was no path, and catching onto trees and branches to swing around, and up one hill and down the ridge. And I'm not sure, my memory, where that first perimeter fence was that we got to. But I'd say it was probably a good 2-hour hike. And when we got within view of Oak Ridge, it was very highly lit up, beautifully. I mean, it was just, again, excessively lit up. And we did see a security car drive in from the left to the right, and we continued a bit, and then maybe 20 minutes later or so, I'd say, it came back in the same way. And then we started, because we were very close, and we came down and acted quickly, able to make neat slit through the perimeter, through the chain link fence, and across a road, I believe, was there, and down, up and down a little more. Those details I don't remember. And then I think there was a car going by, and we were just able to lie in the grass. By this time, it wasn't woods and trees. And that's the only time we had to do that, or chose to do it. And then went over and were able to get through the first of the three. I didn't take note of what other people were doing, but throwing my backpack in first and just easily crawling through the second, and getting to the third, the inner one, the first, you might call it, from the facility. Nothing happened. We were able to cut through, and right away we opened our things, and each had decided to do a certain part of it, and my task was tying the crime scene fence, the crime scene tape and I didn't know where I would ever do it, but there were 3 wonderful pillars, if not 4, and very easy to tie on to the pillars were about 5 feet high, concrete, square pillars. It looked as though they were keeping the traffic from going too close to the building, kind of thing, if trucks were driving around that area. And so the crime scene tape was previously labeled by me, nuclear crime scene, in between the words danger. One side it was in English and the next one was Spanish. And we did many of it because we didn't know how much we could do, and so it just was fine, easy to do, probably took 5 minutes. And then I came over and did whatever other part of the action one had decided to do, which was all the parts, and I took my hammer, went to see where we decided to start the deconstruction in order to begin the transformation, and we found a perfect little spot, and did sample symbolic beating onto this weapon. And then I took we had several bottles of blood, and very reverently poured it on sacrificially, as it were, thinking of the people in Nagasaki and Hiroshima for whom who had been killed by all of this, and remembering the lives of all the Hibakusha that I had been meeting in the last 25 years, come over nonviolently to forgive the United States, and seeing how forgiveness is such an essential part of healing, and on all sides. And so inspired by these people who've lived with their wounds and diseases sometime, or the whole time, and they're still alive today to tell the story. And then gathering the papers that we wanted to express the truth And then we saw maybe 300 feet down the lights of a van coming in, and it drove very slowly in. And when it got as far as you are to me now, he was speaking on his cell phone. He maybe one hand got there and with one hand opened the door and and we heard him say, "They are peace protestors. You had better somebody," or something like that. So I knew that we were safe with hearing that, and we decided to perform our statement. And I remember distinctly saying, "We have a message for you. Will you listen?" And he didn't say no. He didn't say yes. He was just waiting as you're waiting now. And we took our papers. And by this time, Michael and Greg had lit the candles, which also were brought in symbolism of the light of truth that we wish to share into the darkness of the secrecies and lies with which the place has been fed for so long. And so we read our whole document, and in turn, and got to the very end, and gradually cars began coming in behind this one, and they came out, the first ones, with their 2 weapons facing us and covering someone who immediately made us put our hands behind our backs and handcuffed us, and I think cuffed our ankles. And I think we were told to empty our pockets, before they did that. So we emptied our pockets, and then we just sort of stood there for a long, long time. Nobody knew. They did say, I need you to sit down." And so I said, "Well, I'll have to be helped because I can't get down by myself in this way." So they left me down, halfway down, halfway up, and they were given one direction. One was given one direction, another direction, and my direction was looking at all of these people as they gathered. And I was able to see their faces and see it. There was a lot of nervous joking and laughing beginning, but this is still only maybe 5:45. Dusk, and the sun is slowly beginning to rise. And after about 20 minutes, I couldn't measure it. I just couldn't. I said, "I'm going to need to stand for a while, please." So they helped me stand up, and I guess they let them stand too. And then when they came after another 20 minutes or so, "I need you to sit down now." That's the way they say it, I suppose, parents to their children. And I said, "Well, I'm happy to stand. It doesn't bother me at all, but it's not very easy to sit." And I said, "Oh, no, we need you to sit." And so we went down again. That must have gone on for probably an hour and a half or 2 hours, because we had there from, let's say, 5:10 or 15 minutes, 5:10, 5:15, all the way till at least 10:30, so we were able to watch. At one point, I was turned toward the wall. They were unhappy with me looking at their faces. And so I saw a gradual accumulation of people in mufti, and maybe midway, 8 o'clock or so, the man came over who said he was in charge of the security people, and he had to ask a few questions, but he wanted to inform me that I was not under any obligation to answer, not in the presence of my lawyer. So I said, "I choose to wait until I'm in the presence of my lawyer." And I think he did say one question like, "Are there any others of you?" And I certainly said, "Not as far as I know, certainly not." So I gave him that information. And then some more higher up kind of people seemed to join them. And we kept standing and sitting until about the last half hour. It was really as much as they gave. Then they brought 3 chairs. And the chairs are in the pictures. So we sat for the last 10 minutes, I think, or 20 minutes, whatever. Then they informed us that we would be taken to jail. And we expected that, certainly, by that time. And that was a long process, too. We had a long wait, put us in together in one car, no barricades or anything, as they often have when they take you, police take you to jail. And we were able to chat with each other, observe the other parts of the place, and we saw that I noticed how very decadent it looked, in the sense of not being kept up at all. It really looked very neglected, and lots of rust coming out of these fancy towers and things, and not repaired. And I also noticed very glum faces on everybody. Nobody seemed really happy. I was very conscious of that. And they obviously hadn't known what to do with us. The long wait was getting orders from higher-ups or the Pentagon or whatever, and I had experienced that before. And so we sat in this car for a good long time, and then again, watching the few people who were coming in, watching the guards who were standing there, and the excessive security that surrounds that entrance. I mean, there was such, unthought out spending of money. There was nothing there that was in any way beautiful. It was just extremely harsh. What you would associate when we were growing up with they call it the gulag, or, Siberia, kind of ugly, but very intense and wasteful. I was very conscious of that.